everyone. Welcome back to Tony Sports Games for our concluding episode, the final episode of our Admiral Adventures. Of course, if you've been following along, this is Draft Day Sports College Football 2026. And I'm coming to the close of what has been a very fun adventure indeed here. Playing a season as the Nashville Admirals. I'm only the first that will be playing through this exact season, as there are at least a couple other content creators that are going to give it a crack after I'm done here. Thank you all for following along. When last we spoke, I think the last one I recorded was after week 12, during our bye week, or after our bye week, before this Arkansas game. In that episode, I know we looked quite a bit at the standings of the conference. Of course, it's really the SEC, but in the base version of the game, without the real world mod, it is called the Southeastern 14. And we could kind of see a path, just a possible path for us to still have a chance to reach the conference championship game. So, you really had to squint to see the path, but the path was there. We dominated Oklahoma, who at one time was in first place in the conference, so we had a tiebreaker against them. We were already one game ahead of Kentucky, even though they beat us because they dropped a few games kind of inexplicably. We beat Auburn, we beat Ole Miss, so there was a chance. Okay, now, coming out of the bye, I did think this game would be a little more convincing than it was. We ended up squeaking it out, but we win at home against Arkansas. As you can see, it was kind of what our wins became as the season went on, and this team morphed more into the type of team I thought we could be at the beginning of the season. A balanced offense, a team that could control the clock, that could move the ball on the ground, and really control games and lean on people that way. Rough start for us, certainly, this season, but I think as I dialed it in more, if you look back at our previous videos and kind of my thoughts on the roster from the start, we did become that kind of team by the end of the year, which is pretty cool. But in this game, we were definitely the better side statistically. We passed the ball very efficiently, very effectively, almost 300 yards on 20 of 26 passing. No turnovers on the day. And rushing, we ran the ball 45 times for only 169 yards. But if you look a little deeper, you see, our main two ball carriers, David Outlaw had a good game. Michael Kitchen had a pretty good game. It was really just Covert and Guajardo that brought that team average down. But once again, as you see many times throughout the season, balanced production from the receiving core. Obviously, Nakamura, once again, is the tight end that I converted from wide receiver. He was a slot receiver. We made him a tight end. Doing what he has done all year. Catch most of the targets thrown his way for mediocre yardage. It's kind of what he's been all year. Conti, Way, Jensen, Robinson as well, all have chipped in to really produce more than I thought this receiving core would at the beginning of the year. But that's enough about this game. Then we went ahead, and the way the conference standings were holding, it looked like this was a win and get in scenario for us into the conference championship game. Now, South Carolina at the time was number one in the conference. I spent a lot of time on this game plan. They had a very good team. I had no idea if we'd be able to pull it off. Our previous road games, really we just won the Missouri road game, and I guess Kennesaw State, but lost at Wisconsin, lost to Alabama, lost at Kentucky, and ladies and gentlemen, we bucked that trend in Week 14. The plucky Nashville Admirals waltzed into South Carolina and thoroughly thumped them at home. We win the game 28-7. Really did everything I hoped we'd be able to do. We had more yards, way more first downs. We were better on third down. Um, Passed the ball 24 of 29 for 275. Just another incredible day from Covert. We ran the ball for over 5 yards a carry, 186 yards on the ground. We controlled the clock. We forced 2 turnovers. Everything went to plan. It was just a fantastic team performance. Outlaw, another good game. Kitchen held in check a bit. Guajardo stepped up with some nice carries, and we get it done. We get it done at South Carolina, 28-7. Sean Jensen, this guy had his game of the year. Catches 10 of 11 balls for 119 yards. And because of this win, we did indeed get into the conference championship game. Oops, I just spoiler alerted, but we have to rematch Alabama, who again beat us in week 6, 62-34. I again spent a lot of time on this game plan. Alabama had a very good season. I pored over the formations that they struggled to gain yardage against, the formations that gained a lot of yards against their defense. I put together a new offensive playbook, a new defensive playbook, a new first down playbook just for this game. And it wasn't quite enough. A heartbreaking loss here, 37-30. We obviously do much better than the first time around, but we can't get it done. But in case you thought this was painful enough already, it gets worse, trust me. If you look at how we lost 37-30, you will see. If I can direct your attention over here to the right. First downs, 27-14. Third downs, 6 of 12 to 2 of 11. 550 total yards for us against 239 total yards for them. Everything in the game plan worked almost exactly as I had hoped. However, in an almost repeat of our first matchup, if you scroll down, this is where we lose the game. 4 turnovers to 1. We have 3 turnovers, I think, before we have a touchdown in this game. Repeatedly driving down inside their 20, inside their 10-yard line. This one intercepted at the Bama 30. Then, let's see, we go down here. Fumble at the Bama 13. Just absolute catastrophe. We get a field goal. Then we get another field goal. 6-17. This one, no, not this one. We have to punt. Here in the third quarter, we drive from the Bama 32 down to the Bama 3, intercepted. We, drive to midfield, fumble. It's just an absolute comedy of errors. We finally score a touchdown, another touchdown here. Actually, there was another one too. If you look at one of our field goals, let's see if I can find this. Yeah, right here where we had to settle for a field goal. We're 3rd and inches on the 3, and then 4th and inches on the 3. Our aggressive coach, who goes forward on 4th down more than others, apparently decides not to. So just a comedy of errors at the worst times. Multiple turnovers, 4 turnovers, all in Alabama territory. Although a couple of them, they return on the play into our territory. So really we just dominate the game and shoot ourselves in the foot repeatedly. Even so, we, if you look here, we tie it early in the 4th. They go up 3. We come down. We don't fumble. We don't throw a pick. We go ahead with 4 minutes to go in a game we have dominated. We let them drive all the way down the field. We bail them out with a penalty here on 3rd down and another penalty here on 4th and goal when we would have turned them over and won the game. The game was over. In spite of all the failures by us, we gave up a touchdown with 55 seconds left for Bama to take the lead. Then somehow, in 50 seconds, we drive down and kick the field goal that should tie it and send it to overtime. But, of course, they take it 99 yards for a walk-off touchdown on the ensuing kickoff, and we lose. So just, I don't really know what to say. I guess we needed to play better, but we're unable to get it done. So we go to the Tumbleweed Bowl against Baylor or Waco, and we take out some pent-up frustration here. Dominate them in every single way. 31-11 first downs. We don't turn the ball over. Time of possession 43-16. 490 total yards to 238. So we basically do to Baylor what we could have done to Alabama had we not turned the ball over. Bama's better than Waco and Nashville, but so we win the Tumbleweed Bowl. Oh joy! We end the season 9-5 with a trip to the conference championship game. But those are the results as it shook out. I may not sleep for several nights thinking about what could have been. But we end up, with a respectable season, but with some ups and downs. That's it for the game results. The second part of this video will be our kind of true season wrap-up, which I'll do at the end of the season, where we can look at our season stats for everyone across the league. And then, of course, we'll have to look at how our recruiting rankings shape up once the portal is done. But this is it for playing on a field of grass. It's been a great time. For you guys, the second part will be just in a few seconds here. But for me, it'll be a little longer. We'll get together with AKH and finalize this. Thanks for watching so far. I'll be right back to wrap up the rest of the season. Okay, here we are back for part 2 of the wrap-up video. I'm at the true end of season, so I want to take a look back at a few things here. First, I did misspeak as far as the playoff goes a little bit. Some of the participants, you can see Ohio State ended up pulling it out against Southern Cal. We had, let's see, the teams that were in there originally was Southern Cal, Louisiana Tech, Central Florida, Toledo, Oklahoma, UAB, Air Force, and Southern Miss. Then Alabama, Central Florida, Oklahoma, Miami, Alabama, you see losing their first game. Southern Cal over Iowa State, Ohio State over Air Force, Southern Cal over Central Florida, and Ohio State over Miami of Florida, and Ohio State over Southern Cal. So Ohio State wins the national championship. The bowl game that I noticed was South Carolina and Wisconsin. If you remember, this is the first team we played this season, and of course we beat South Carolina later in the year. So yeah, Wisconsin turned out to have a pretty good season. I'm a little surprised they didn't make the playoff, but it looked like some conference champions qualified and some better at-large teams didn't. Like both these teams could have been in consideration. So anyway, moving on to kind of look at some stats here on the season. I just wanted to really reflect on kind of what I thought at the very beginning of the year. When we were looking at our quarterback position, for instance, I'm, of course, interested to see how the other guys approach this, but to me, it was Covert, pretty clearly the guy that should be playing. He just was kind of a better overall player. Now, I thought his legs would add more to the equation, and as you can see, that part of my prediction or strategy didn't really turn out to be true. I mean, he scrambled a handful of times this year, averaging 4 yards a carry. He had 4 fumbles. So really, I think his legs didn't really add much, but fantastic season throwing the ball, 73%. Completion percentage over 3,500 yards, 28 touchdowns and 9 picks. Really about, I don't know, 5 or 6, I think 5 of those picks came in the 2 Alabama games. And yeah, really the only times this year that Covert got in trouble were these games occasionally. Well, this one he threw it 52 times but avoided the turnovers. But the few times this year where we did not maintain good balance on offense and, he had to throw it more than 35 times, tended to be the times where we got in trouble. Overall, though, right here's 3 of his interceptions. He had 2 more the second time we played Bama. Overall, this is a player that really exceeded my expectations, and he played great for us. He played great. So that was great to see. At running back, the one thing that I overlooked, I did have Outlaw nailed to be an effective inside runner, and he was by the end of the year. The one guy that I kind of overlooked at the beginning of the year was this Michael Kitchen. Decent all-around running back, extremely good agility. As you can see, he had a bunch of missed tackles that he forced. In fact, I think, without counting them too closely, yeah, he forced more missed tackles than Outlaw did. So, this guy was a great player, and I kind of overlooked him at the beginning of the year because I just saw this 90, whatever it was at the beginning of the year, 94, 95 speed for Guajardo. And, he had some production, almost 500 yards, but by the end of the year, definitely Kitchen had kind of surpassed him on the depth chart. Even Albert Wright, I didn't use a ton, but late in the year we kind of worked him in a little bit. You see he rushed for 5.5 yards a carry. I said at the beginning of the year when we looked over this team, I thought we could be a fairly dominant, inside running team, and it definitely turned out that way. I think a balanced offense, but a very effective offense, and we had a pretty good performance from the group up front here. I was especially looking at this guy Royster, 94 strength, 90 run block. Elliott Click, 95 strength, 81 run block. They were both, I believe, quite good. The best offensive lineman for me, though, was this Richard Whitson, who at the beginning of the year I only had on passing downs, worked him in on running downs later in the year as well. This 71 run block did not jump out at me, but as the year went on, he just kept pancaking people more and more and more and more. So he had he ended up having a great season. Receiving. Charles Robinson leads us in terms of yardage, despite playing a little less down the stretch. In terms of targets, it's a couple names up there at the top. Tyler Way, Sean Jensen, Charles Robinson, right behind Miles Conti. So all 4 wide receivers up here, and then Edward Nakamura. So really you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 guys between 80, 81, 64 and 81 targets. These are the guys that did most of the damage in the passing game. This guy that I converted to tight end from receiver, Sean Dick, was really not too effective and played less as the season went along. So that one I might have missed on. I would say Nakamura was quite good, very dependable overall in the season. We'll see if any of the other guys choose to move him to tight end as well, or if he stays at receiver. Maybe he'll be a starting slot receiver for someone else when they play through this team. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Charles Robinson kind of had the biggest average here, the most, I guess, the most explosive plays. He also had the most penalties, which is why he played less as the season went along. But 13 20-plus yard catches, that's probably better than anyone else. Yeah, Jensen had 4. Tyler Way had 6. So yeah, Charles Robinson, no surprise there. He was the downfield threat. If you look at the rest of the offensive line, really good pass blocking unit. You can see we only quote unquote allow 5 sacks on the year as a unit. That's pretty fantastic. Okay, so passing yards, number 1, 2, 3, 4 in the conference. 3rd in passer rating. Tied for, 4th, 5th yards per attempt. Pretty low interception percentage compared to everyone else up here. Low sack percentage. Well, I guess a little higher than these guys, but Auburn and Missouri allowed a lot more sacks. So, effective passing offense, as we kind of said there. Obviously, we had the number 1 rushing offense in the conference. Averaged almost 5 yards a carry on the year. Also top in the conference. 36 rushing touchdowns. Also top in the conference. Do have a little bit of a fumble issue, but we have a lot more carries than other guys. So, that is what it is. We lose 10 fumbles, 4th worst. And we have the most explosive play runs of 20 yards or more as well. So, great rushing offense there. I would guess we are actually towards the top in drops as a whole pass catching unit. I feel like enough guys are fairly dependable in there, though, that, 18 for the whole season for the whole team is not a back-breaking number. If you look at who had the worst drop issues, it's someone up here near 50, and then guys in the upper 20s, so pretty happy with that. Defense. We are middle of the pack in interceptions with 10. We're towards the bottom in sacks with 15. Again, that's another thing I had pointed out at the beginning of the year. I didn't know where the pass rush was going to come from, and it came from nowhere for a lot of the season. We do end up 3rd in the conference in knockdowns, even though we don't finish a lot of sacks, which that surprises me quite a bit, actually, when I'm looking at that. We're number 1 in hurries, so I guess I take back everything I just said. We didn't finish a lot of sacks, but we were affecting the opposition passers. Let's see, passes defensed. We're 3rd in the conference with 58. Missed tackles. We're kind of upper middle of the pack in tackles for loss. Let's see, we end up 5th in turnovers. Of course, we didn't force a lot of turnovers, so we're -3 in turnover differential. Overall, a lot of successful categories here. Just a few things that we kind of had to live with, I guess. We didn't have a perfect team. I think overall we achieved a lot with this squad. I'm really happy with it. If we look into some of the key decisions I made at the beginning of this year, one of them, of course, was moving this guy, George Hauser, from strong safety to outside linebacker. It'd be interesting to see if any of the other guys do that as well. I did that because I didn't have a lot of speed at linebacker, and I did have another very good strong safety option on the team, this Clark Thomas. So if you look at how that decision turned out, George Hauser, he leads us with 80 tackles on the season. 3 sacks, 3 knockdowns, 1 hurry, 3 forced fumbles, 9 tackles for loss. So a big season out of him. Our safeties are among the team leaders in tackles as well. Obviously, it's not a great defense overall, but we did piece some things together here. Not a lot of interceptions, but they're where you want to see them. The three corners and our free safety leading the way here. One guy that deserves a shout out here, Eldridge Carlos, even though his morale went in the tank, I tried to fix it and made it worse and worse and worse. He did. Yeah, here's his. He wanted. There we go. He was all conference for us. I think he was the only all conference player on this team. But in spite of having low morale throughout the year, he makes the most of the season with leading us with 3 picks. Also tied for the lead with 14 passes defensed, and allowing a catch rate of just over 50%. But really, I think that's probably the best out of any of our main pass defenders. You see Coronado allowing well over 50%. Ruffin, again, allowing well over 50%. Faber allowing exactly 50%. So pretty good there. Carlos, just over 50%. So he was our best pass defender by far, Carlos. So there was another guy that we switched positions. Was this guy here, Tevalence Valencia. We moved from defensive tackle to defensive end, just to kind of hold the edge there. I wouldn't say he really did much. I don't know if anyone else will choose to do that with him or not. I just wanted some more size on the outside and like 3-3-5, stuff like that, which 3-3-5 wide did end up being one of our better formations on defense. But, he ends the season with 8 tackles, 1 sack, 8 hurries, 1 forced fumble, 2 tackles for loss, and playing only a part-time complement of snaps. So, I wouldn't say he did nothing. He's playing 20 to 25 snaps a game, but I'm not going to say it made a huge impact. Overall, when we look at this team, where we finished, we finished 9-5. We finished 5-0 at home, which was nice. Of course, 4-5 on the road. 6-3 in the conference, in a difficult conference where all these teams down to, well, probably about here, all these teams have more talent than us. But yeah, this team ended up, being what I thought they could be. A nice ball control team. We outpossessed opponents toward the end of the season quite a bit. Mixing up the running game, mixing up the passing game, letting Covert make good decisions in the pocket. Defense, we kind of went opponent by opponent, especially late in the year, to try to respond to a lot of other teams' strengths as the year went on. If you look at some of our bread and butter plays on the year, no surprise here. Pro set off tackle right. Ran it 67 times for almost 5.5 yards a carry. Fullback dive was a pretty good play for us, surprisingly. And then pro set counter left. So the bread and butter here was off tackle right, counter left. Both really effective. We used them both a lot. Overall we ran it more right than left, but this counter left run was very effective. We have a mix of, we have 2 tight end. As we went on in the year, these empty 5 wide plays were really having a lot of success for us, so we ran those quite a bit. We threw it out of pro set as well. We ran and threw it out of spread. 2 tight ends here. So, a lot of good plays. A lot of plays we ran multiple times for good success. But overall, great offense by the end of the year. Defense that just had to pick our spots and try to game plan around our opponents. I have 1 all-conference player in Eldridge Carlos, and we increase +2 in prestige. So that is the update there. The last part of this video will be reviewing our recruiting class once it's finalized. So I'm going to let AKH advance us here. We'll see how many players we're losing to the portal. I hope a couple guys transfer because I want to bring in a couple guys through the portal. But we will finish that up and we will finalize this video and this series in part 3 here in just a moment when our recruiting class is finalized. Here we are at kind of the final wrap-up screen. With the help of AKH, I have advanced through the off-season recruiting, the season flip, the transfer portal, all that, and we are ready to finally put a bow on this thing. So if we look back just a little bit at the end of the season, we had 4 players transfer away. Of course, we did have all our scholarships accounted for, but then we had 4 players transfer away. So here's our recruiting class. Nationally, our class ranked at 14. Our relative rank, which is more indicative of your efforts, is 57. Our athletic department is delighted with this result. So, who do we have here? Let's go position by position. So we bring in Perry as a freshman. He's a dual threat quarterback as well. We also bring in Randolph in the portal. Now, when I went back and looked, I really didn't pay attention to this guy last year at all because I was focused on Covert and Dunn, the 2 guys I was choosing between for to be starters. So he didn't really make any improvements last year, but I mean, he is a better player than I thought. I guess it depends what kind of offense you run. We would have a quarterback decision to make again this next season if we were playing this out. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. He's got some ability here. I think depending on what the rest of the roster says, you could make an argument for whether he or possibly Perry or Randolph would start. But let's see. We get 2 running backs. Drury pans out to be fast and strong. Not necessarily very agile, but not bad there. Good intangibles. Lacey, good agility, decent speed, actually pretty good hands. This could be a receiving back for sure. So that's where our 2 backs shake out at. If you look at going into this year, Wright performed pretty well down the stretch last year, so he would have a leg up on this competition as far as starting goes. Guajardo would be in there as well, but you can see the loss of Outlaw. We definitely would have the need for a power back, so probably, possibly one of these 2 guys would at least get some goal line work this year, maybe between Hudson and Drury. So a couple players there that could be useful. Fullback, we have a body in here. He does have 53 run blocks, so nothing to write home about, but we did secure a fullback that definitely profiles as more of a blocker, so that's something. Tight end we kind of went over already. We just have the the transfer. All these other guys were coming back. Yeah, the transfer was this guy, Roderick Rodriguez. Profiles as a nice blocking tight end, and then so now we have 2 blocking tight ends I feel pretty good about. We have 2 receiving tight ends I feel pretty good about. Receiver, again, we don't lose any of the top 4 receivers from last season in Conti, Jensen, Way, and Robinson. I did bring in 1 receiver in this class. This is W.M. Roger. I like the name quite a bit, but you can see where he stacks up. He is, decent agility, very nice intelligence, decent speed, good hands. So nothing spectacular, but probably a receiver that could contribute for us right away. He has excellent intangibles, as you can see, great competitiveness. Pretty good social type here as well. So be interesting to see where he goes, but I think we learned last year that this position group wasn't as bad as I thought it was just by looking at the ratings. I thought they played better than that during the season. Of course, us having kind of a balanced offense when everything was said and done helped with that a lot. The recruits that we pulled in at guard here, you can see we have Hirsch, Williams, Vincent, and Franks. Now, overall rating, of course, they didn't come back super high, but if you look at what we're going to be using them for, we have 2 freshman guards. Profile is very good pass blockers. Along with really, we got 2, or depending on training camp, we're going to have a bunch of guards to choose from in pass blocking. So that's great to see, because these guys, they're a point or 2 away from. I mean, they're right there. We got 3 guys here that are really highly skilled at pass blocking. Decent strength. We'd have to look at all this as we go along, but so we have the options there. Run blocking was really what we were trying to replace, and you see 3 of these guards right here: Vincent, Williams, and Hirsch. Of course, Vincent doesn't have very good strength, but they are our 3, I guess 3 out of our 4 top run blocking guards. So we did what we needed to there. Replaced our starting run blocking guards. Tackle, we end up with 3 freshman tackles as well in this class. And as you can see, one of them, Barry Osborne, probably will be starting for us in pass blocking situations. He's probably the best of the bunch. Or sorry, no, not pass blocking. This is run blocking. So we've got, a couple competent run blockers to choose from among the tackles. Osborne is up there. He'll get consideration, although he is undersized, is the main bugaboo with him. On pass blocking side of things, you've got really 3 options up here that I'd feel pretty good about as well. Decent strength for all 3, so 2 of these 3 will be starting in passing, and you can see Cecil Combs and Richard Cole. Cole a little undersized. Combs looks like he could become a pretty nice player for us. Really nice intangibles, good size, decent strength. He's smart, good pass blocker. Really not a terrible run blocker either. He is very unathletic, so that'd be one thing there. And then Cole, as I said, a little undersized, but a decent blocking skill. He's also quite a smart player and pretty athletic for a big guy. I guess an undersized big guy. So I think we got kind of what we needed to out of those positions. We bring in 2 freshmen at center. I don't know if I really needed the second one, but we end up bringing in 2. Of course, we have a returning center who should be a pretty good pass blocker. He's very skilled anyway, and decent strength. See if going into this. This is not returning though. Yeah, Cassis transferred. So yes, we have 3 out of these 4 centers are new. Yeah. Cassis transferred, Sanders and Doherty are true freshmen. So as you can see, pass blocking, we've got 3 options here, but 2 of them are new players to this team through the portal and as a true freshman. And then run blocking was really what I needed to replace in this class, and this guy should just fit the bill. As you can see, if I wouldn't have landed him, we would have been having to push down a little bit here. But as it is, really, I think we have 2 run blockers I'd feel pretty decent about, especially Doherty, though. So, again, we kind of filled the gaps there that we needed to. Looks like we will have, yes, we'll have a freshman starting as our punter this year. We will not have a freshman starting as a kicker, as this guy needs to improve his accuracy a bit, this freshman Roden, but he is a clutch kicker, so hold up hope that he can develop as time goes on. Defensive tackle, I believe we brought... Did we end up just bringing the one in? Let's see. Yes, just the one. So just the one defensive tackle that we bring in, and that is Raymond Alexander, 6'5", 317, 89 strength. Good work ethic, competitiveness. He's a workout fanatic, so we're going to be putting him on a training schedule to really push him to keep improving. And let's see, he will be, right up there with close to Blanco as far as starting, in the middle on, he'll definitely be the backup nose tackle. In four-man fronts, I don't know if we would. It depends who played this team next year, I guess. If you would start him opposite Blanco or if he'd get redshirted, but got him there. We pick up two defensive ends as well, Stockton and Schmid. Both pretty solid strength, both solid speed. So two, what I think could be really nice players for Nashville going forward. Stockton, of course, ranked 572. Schmidt, 501. Profile very similarly there. Schmidt has out-of-this-world work ethic and competitiveness, which should serve him well in his college career. Stockton is 6'6", 262. So a couple good finds there. These guys are probably going to push for playing time right away. Linebacker, we end up taking two linebackers, and I was most concerned with the tackling because I think, if you guys remember, on their recruit cards it mentioned strength and speed but not tackling. So it looks like out of the two of them, this guy, Sean Reynolds, really maybe is the better player, at least coming in to college. He does have decent strength for a linebacker. He's pretty smart. And his tackling came out pretty good. 78 tackling, 76 speed. The other guy, Alfaro, maybe a little more raw. 75 speed. Tackling, going to need some work before he can do much for us, but certainly has some potential there as well. Okay, then corner. This is really, we had quite a bit to replace, and we did so very well. We get three corners in this class. Two of them, Ward is the 5-star that we were on from the very beginning. Ends up being a pretty good looking player. It's going to be our best corner right away next year. Then we get the decommit McKinley, also good size, solid intangibles, good agility, very good speed. A solid player there. And then we also signed this Mario Bradley, who, good size, very good speed, not very agile, kind of a straight line speed guy. So other two guys are definitely going to start out ahead of him as they enter school, but nonetheless, we have bodies. We have 7 corners to choose from. And let's see. Yeah. Coronado is back. Carlos and Ruffin are gone. So I would say probably Ward and Coronado starting outside. Actually, well, I don't know. We'll see. I would want to run training camps before I decided, because possibly you could start McKinley outside and start Ward in the slot. He is a better tackler. But either one, I think, either one. Ward could definitely start outside. McKinley, solid rotational piece. Good nickel corner if we would choose to end up putting him there. So we did really well with the corners. We were replacing a lot, and we did well at that position. Of course, we have Paul Carpenter coming back, who played, I guess sparingly, played in 7 games last year. He was just a depth piece. Now he moves ahead to kind of be the starter. We do bring in a strong safety in Ezekiel Lohman. Turns out to be very agile. He is a box safety, so he has that going for him. See, this is Lohman here. Yeah. So agility, intelligence. His tackling is up there with these guys. He's not very fast, so I have to keep an eye on that. I don't know if in this conference if that's good enough, or if he would need a red shirt and try to gain. He's probably going to need to gain a few points in speed to really see the field in this conference. But and then we signed a couple free safeties as well. Good speed on both guys, which I like to see. Neither one's super intelligent. Whitaker is a very good tackler for a free safety. Very, very good. Wow. Excellent tackler, actually. Whereas Harris, a little less strength, about the same agility, same intelligence, a little better hands, same speed, much worse tackler. So Harris maybe some more room to develop. Whitaker, though, this guy could be a great nickel corner as well. Another very good tackler up in the box in nickel, dime, 3-3-5, etc. So that's where we end up there. So as we come to the end of the last chapter here in our experience with the Admiral Adventures series, of course, I'm looking forward to watching the other guys' videos and see how they do as well. I'm really going to be looking to see, who makes similar start and sit decisions as I did, who goes a totally different direction with the roster. Are there things that I didn't even see when I evaluated this team at the beginning of the season that some of the other guys are going to pick up on? Are we going to end up having more or less success than some of the other guys that play? It's going to be really fun. I will definitely end up linking the other channels that will be participating in this in the descriptions here. But I am overall, pretty happy with how we were able to perform this season. I think, we took a roster with probably the, 11th, maybe 12th, maybe 13th out of 14 teams in the conference as far as talent, and we're able to get second in the conference. Make it to the Southern 14 championship game. And really, by the end of the year, we were playing really, really well. I think our last really 3 to 4 games, you really saw us being able to dial in, and the offense was really tremendous, and the defense, while it wasn't great, it's not my strong suit. I do think by the end of the year, we had a good read on, something I said at the very beginning of the season was, I think personnel groupings with our 3 corners all in the field at one time, with Carlos, Coronado, and Ruffin all on the field at the same time, are going to be good for us. And by the end of the year, it kind of played out that way, where when I looked at my defensive formations that I had played over the course of the year, the best in terms of yardage and most of the metrics that this game gives you anyway, yards per play and things like that, we're definitely some of those formations. Your nickel wide, 3-3-5 wide, dime base, dime press. So, we were, I think, more or less right on that. It was a matter of kind of getting our play calls dialed in as the season goes along. And it does take me a while to do that because I'm not a great defensive coach. But I hope what I showed through my playthrough, for maybe newer players is, if you can really learn to play this game well, and I've still got a lot to learn. There's a lot of guys that know a lot more about this game than me. But as you figure out how to tweak your personnel and your playbooks, and as you figure out how to choose an offense and a defense that matches your best players, you really can do quite well, even if you have less talent, against the CPU run teams, especially late in the year when you have more data available on their play calls and what formations they run and things like that. Because I used that to great success late in the season. And I hope it did show that, you guys don't have to, uh, play as Alabama right out of the gate to be able to win a lot of games. You can figure out kind of the tricks of um, evaluating the data that you get late in the season. You can really have some pretty dominant performances against the CPU, even if they have good teams on paper. So obviously it's different in online. You've got to try to be able to account for the human element, and they're doing the same to you, so people break tendencies a lot more. But um, I had a lot of fun with it. Offensively, I think we put up some impressive results, especially late in the year. But we got to where, I mean, when you're talking like 22, 25, 30 first downs in a game, you're talking about our bowl game having almost 40 minutes of possession. That's pretty good. So, a few things to hang our hats on. My recruiting class, ending, what did we just end there? 14th. Um, Not eye-popping in terms of rankings, but I think when you look down position by position as we did, and you see, what skills did we need to replace, it does seem like we got a lot of players that will do that for us. So I don't know. We'll see how the other guys do with recruiting. Um, I really struggled recruiting the quarterback. Obviously, that was kind of my biggest downfall here, um, and the early season part of the schedule. So I'll definitely be looking to see if some of the other guys can improve on some of those things. But I think we set the bar relatively high. I think we performed well. I had a lot of fun with this. Thanks for joining me, Tony Sports, on the Admiral Adventures. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to Wolverine Studios, especially AKH, for all his help in advancing the weeks when I needed it. Thanks to the other guys that are going to be participating in this as well. And yeah, fun times. We had some fun times. So I'm going to say goodbye to the Nashville Admirals for now, and I will see you in the next video.